May every soul that's known heartbreak find the strength to heal, the courage to trust again, and the grace to recognize love when it shows up dressed in simplicity. May broken paths lead to brighter days, and may what begins in pain end in peace. She ran with everything she had in her, not because she was trying to catch anything, but because she couldn't stand still. If she stopped, the tears would overtake her. The truth would pin her down. Her white sneakers slapped the rain-slick pavement as if she could outrun the betrayal that had just punched a hole in her chest. Destiny Brown didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to get away from that cafe, from the sight of Marcus, her fiancé, laughing under that awning with another woman. His hand hadn't hesitated. It had landed on the stranger's shoulder like it had a home there, and in that moment, every plan, every promise, every moment they'd built disintegrated without a word of explanation. The Florida sky cried right along with her. Storm clouds opened up, drenching the streets of Sarasota in sheets of warm rain, but Destiny didn't stop. Her hospital scrubs were soaked, her curls flattened against her forehead, but her heart, that was the heaviest thing she carried. She turned sharply down a dim street, her foot catching on a loose brick. Gravity gave way and her knees buckled, until strong arms caught her. "Whoa, careful." The voice was soft, warm, like a blanket thrown over a trembling body. Her breath hitched as she found herself chest-deep in a stranger's hold. The man was tall, gentle-eyed, dressed plainly in a raincoat. He didn't look like danger. He looked like calm. Destiny didn't speak at first. She just stayed in his arms, shaken and breathless. "He was with someone else," she murmured, voice barely audible. The man didn't ask questions. He didn't pry. He gently walked her to a dry doorway nearby, then handed her a cup of coffee from the cafe's outdoor stand. She hadn't even noticed he had one. His hands, like his presence, were steady, present, solid. "I'm Noah," he said, not needing a last name, not needing anything more than his presence to offer something she hadn't felt in hours: safety. Destiny blinked away a few tears and looked at the cup in her hands. She hadn't asked for kindness. She hadn't expected warmth. But somehow she'd fallen into something better than an apology. She'd fallen into the arms of a man whose eyes didn't lie and whose grip didn't hurt. And yet, Destiny had no idea that this soft-spoken stranger carried a secret big enough to break her heart all over again. Have you ever loved someone with your whole heart, only to realize they were loving someone else behind your back? That kind of pain doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up with warnings or prepare you for the drop. It just hits you in a single moment, like a message that says, "We need to talk," or a casual glance through a rain-soaked window where everything you thought you had suddenly disappears. Destiny Brown wasn't just a nurse. She was the kind of woman who gave more than she ever asked for, the kind who stayed after her shift to hold a patient's hand or skipped lunch to run an extra test. Her whole life was built around helping people, but the one person she needed to be there for her, Marcus, was the one who shattered her. That night was supposed to be dinner and a conversation, maybe even something sweet, like a surprise. Instead, it was the kind of night you don't tell people about right away, the kind that rewrites how you view love. But here's the thing. Maybe you've had a night like that too. Maybe someone you trusted made a choice that changed everything. Maybe you were left wondering what was wrong with you, when the truth is, there was nothing wrong with you at all. And maybe, just maybe, you also found yourself in the arms of someone unexpected. A stranger, a friend, a random act of kindness, someone who didn't try to fix you, but simply stood still while you found your breath. Destiny didn't plan on meeting Noah Theodore that night. She didn't dress up for him. She wasn't smiling or glowing or charming. She was broken, soaking wet, shivering. And yet, he looked at her like she was still whole, like she was worth showing up for, even in the middle of a storm. Some stories don't start with perfect moments. Some start with pain. But the beautiful ones, the lasting ones, they start when someone shows up without expectation and chooses to stay. Destiny's story is one of those. And if you've ever been left in the rain, if you've ever had your love handed back to you in pieces, or if you've ever wished someone could just see you without judgment or condition, then you're already part of this story. Noah Theodore wasn't wearing a suit that night. There was no fancy car humming nearby, no security detail, no entourage. Just him, a raincoat, and a quiet cup of coffee. He looked like any other kind man passing through town. And that's exactly what Destiny needed. Someone who didn't need anything from her. Someone who showed up when she was too broken to put on her usual brave face. But what if the man who caught her before she hit the ground was also the one who could break her again? What if the warm hands that steadied her belonged to a man whose life was built on secrets? Not because he was cruel, but because he didn't want her to see him the wrong way. He wanted to be seen as a man, not a bank account, a companion, not a charity. Because Noah wasn't just a kind stranger, he was one of the biggest private investors in the state of Florida. A silent donor behind health initiatives, a board member of philanthropic networks Destiny didn't even know existed. And yet he kept that part locked away. Buried beneath humility and quiet generosity, he was the man who offered her a budget sheet, not a black card, the one who helped her pay off debt without flashing his wealth, the one who joined her block party and ate spicy collard greens without mentioning a thing about his last meeting on a yacht in Miami. Destiny thought she was healing beside a man just like her, someone ordinary, someone with a kind heart and simple hopes. But truth? Truth has a way of knocking the wind out of you when you least expect it. A headline on a news ticker, a name flashing beneath the words "Anonymous Millionaire donates millions to local hospitals." Her hospital. His name. Her breath caught. What happens when you finally trust someone, and then realize they've been hiding a fortune all along? Not because they meant to hurt you, but because they were afraid that knowing the truth would make you walk away. This is the kind of secret that can test love at its root, the kind that whispers, "Is what we have real, or was it just comfort dressed up in convenience?" Destiny was about to find out what it means to love someone for who they are, and how hard it is when who they are is more than you ever expected. What if love wasn't about the perfect beginning, but the honest, unfiltered, sometimes painful middle that two people choose to fight through? What if the arms you fell into after heartbreak were the same arms hiding a truth big enough to break you all over again? But what if, instead of running, you stayed, and found something stronger than anything money could buy? Destiny didn't know she was about to walk into the kind of love that would test her, teach her, and rebuild her from the ground up. She thought Noah was just a stranger, just a safe place to cry. But as their worlds collided, from late-night calls to porch conversations about money and dreams, they were building something neither of them saw coming. Still, no love survives without truth, and no future stands without trust. So when Noah's secret came to light, Destiny had a choice. Would she walk away, too bruised to believe again? Or would she learn that love, real love, isn't about what someone hides, but about how they choose to show up once the truth is out? This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about second chances, honest healing, and love that rises from the most unexpected places. So don't go anywhere, because what started in the rain is about to grow roots in faith, forgiveness, and something far more valuable than wealth, real connection. The fluorescent lights of Sarasota General Hospital flickered softly as Destiny Brown tied up the last medical chart for the evening. Her fingers, slightly sore from hours of typing, finally rested. She exhaled and leaned back in the stiff staff room chair, brushing a damp curl off her forehead. Another 12-hour shift in the books. She was proud of the way she'd handled the day, comforting a scared elderly man after a minor stroke, helping a new mother calm her colicky infant, and even skipping her lunch break to assist in the ER. It wasn't just a job to Destiny. It was a purpose, a way to serve. The wall clock blinked past 8:57 p.m. Her stomach growled. She reached for her phone, expecting a sweet text from Marcus. Instead, the screen lit up with a simple message. "Marcus, we need to talk." A tight pinch settled in her chest. Destiny stared at the message for a moment, thumbs hovering but not responding. They had made dinner plans that night. He'd picked the cafe, even insisted they get dessert. So why did this message feel cold? Her mind raced with reasons. Maybe he was planning something serious. Maybe it was a surprise. Still, the air felt wrong. She grabbed her denim jacket from the back of the chair, slung her warm tote bag over her shoulder, and pushed through the glass doors into the Florida evening. The warm air hit her skin like a blanket straight from the dryer, thick with moisture and hinting at rain. Outside, the parking lot buzzed with the usual end-of-shift shuffle. She passed a couple of nurses laughing near the vending machine, one of them calling out, "You heading out, Dee?" Destiny offered a faint smile. "Yeah, I've got dinner plans." Plans she wasn't sure still meant what they had meant this morning. She slid into her used Corolla and started the engine. The radio crackled with a soft R&B tune, something from her college days. She tapped her fingers against the steering wheel, trying not to let the anxious churn in her stomach ruin what might still be a decent night. Sarasota's palm-lined roads passed in a blur. As she neared the beachside cafe Marcus had chosen, raindrops began splattering across the windshield like they had been waiting for her. She clicked the wipers on, the rhythm giving her a strange comfort as she turned into the lot. It was time to find out what Marcus meant by, "We need to talk." The cafe sat nestled beside the boardwalk, its neon sign sputtering slightly in the mist. Destiny parked across the street and sat for a moment, watching the rain pick up. Maybe Marcus was already inside waiting for her. Maybe he was... Her thoughts stopped cold. Through the cafe's glass panel, under the flickering patio awning, she saw him. Marcus. And he wasn't alone. A woman, tall, effortlessly pretty, with long dark curls and a yellow sundress, was laughing beside him. Not just sitting, not just chatting, laughing with her hand playfully brushing his chest. Marcus's arm rested behind her on the bench. It wasn't a casual gesture. It was familiar, intimate. She blinked hard, leaned in, hoping she'd misread something, but there it was, the easy smile on Marcus's lips. The soft way his body leaned toward the woman like they'd done this before, like destiny didn't exist. Her heart felt like it caved in on itself. All the promises, all the long shifts she'd worked to help build their future, all the trust she'd poured into him. It dissolved in one image, him and her, as if destiny was just irrelevant. She stepped out of the car before she knew what she was doing. Her feet moved, carrying her closer to the sidewalk. The rain was heavier now, soaking her curls, her jacket, the tips of her fingers, but she couldn't feel it. She just stared. Marcus didn't see her. Destiny stopped a few feet away, heart pounding like a drumline. The neon from the sign painted her face in dull red and blue flashes. She stood there for another moment, watching, waiting, hoping he'd pull away, that this was all a mistake. He didn't. She turned and ran. The rain clung to her like heartbreak. Every step was blind. Her sneakers slapped against the pavement, water squishing inside them as her breath came in short, uneven gasps. How do you cry while running? Destiny didn't know. She was doing both. She didn't know where she was going, just that she couldn't go home. Not yet. Not with that picture still etched in her mind. Marcus. That woman. That smile. Her ankle twisted slightly on a curb, and she stumbled, catching herself on a lamppost. Her whole body trembled, her soaked scrubs plastered to her skin. Then the sidewalk pitched under her foot. A loose brick sent her sliding. She braced for the fall, but it never came. A pair of arms reached out, strong and steady, catching her mid-drop. She gasped, grabbing onto whatever held her up. The smell of clean cotton and rainwater filled her nose. Her breath hitched again. "You okay?" the voice asked, low and calm. Destiny looked up. A man, maybe mid-30s, tall, white, gentle blue eyes. His brow was furrowed with concern, not judgment. He was wearing a plain raincoat, the kind you don't buy for fashion but for weather. His grip was firm but not tight. She couldn't speak. He helped her step to the side, guiding her beneath a covered porch of an old bookshop. The storefront was closed, but the overhang kept the rain off their heads. For the first time in minutes, Destiny wasn't being beaten by the storm. He pulled a steaming cup of coffee from a cardboard carrier by the steps. "Here," he said. "It's still hot." She took it, hands trembling. "I'm Noah," he added. Destiny nodded slowly, still catching her breath. The coffee warmed her fingers, the heat calmed her chest, and for a few seconds she just stood there with a stranger who had caught her when everything else had fallen apart. The storm quieted to a whisper as Destiny sipped the coffee Noah had given her. She hadn't even asked for help, but here it was, uncomplicated and real. Noah didn't ask for details. He didn't press. He leaned against the wall beside her, hands in his coat pockets, and let her have silence. Eventually her voice found its way through the quiet. "He was with someone else," she whispered. Noah turned slightly but didn't react with shock or pity. "I'm sorry," he said. Simple, genuine. Destiny wiped a tear with the sleeve of her jacket. "I didn't expect it. We were supposed to have dinner. He said he loved me this morning." Noah nodded. Sometimes people say things they don't mean. Or maybe they mean them in the moment, but not with the weight they should. She looked at him. His face wasn't filled with answers, just presence. It was comforting. "I don't usually fall apart like this," she said quietly. He smiled gently. "You didn't fall apart. You landed on your feet. With a little help." A laugh escaped her lips. Surprised, shaky, but real. Destiny studied him for a moment. There was no judgment in his eyes, no hidden smirk, just kindness. "I'm Destiny," she said finally. Noah nodded like he already knew her name. It suits you. They stood there for several minutes, no rush, no expectations. Eventually Noah pulled a small slip of paper from his coat pocket and scribbled a number on it. In case you ever want to talk, or need a friend. Destiny took it, folding it slowly and slipping it into her pocket. Thank you, she said, voice softer now. For everything. He gave her a small smile, tipping his head. Take care of yourself, Destiny. She turned to leave, the paper warm in her hand. And for the first time that night, her chest didn't feel so heavy. The morning sun slipped through the thin curtains in Destiny's modest apartment, casting long golden beams across the floor. She stirred slowly beneath her comforter, her body sore, her heart still bruised from the night before. The clock on her nightstand read 9:04 a.m., and for the first time in a while, she didn't leap out of bed. She lay still, letting the silence wrap around her, her mind sifting through the memories. Marcus, the cafe, the rain, Noah. She sat up suddenly, pulling the covers off. The coffee cup was still on her dresser, empty now, but proof of that unexpected kindness. She reached for her phone and noticed a new message from an unknown number. Hey Destiny, it's Noah. Just checking in. How are you feeling this morning? Her chest tightened in the best way. She stared at the message, fingers hovering, a part of her unsure how to respond. Should she thank him again? Should she pretend like the night never happened? But she didn't overthink it. Hi Noah, thank you again for yesterday. I'm okay. Kind of. Just trying to breathe. The reply came quickly. Breathing is good, one moment at a time. I meant it when I said I'm here if you ever need someone to talk to. Destiny smiled. It was small, but it reached her eyes, something that hadn't happened in days. He didn't ask questions, he didn't pry, he just offered his presence again. She rolled out of bed, pulled on a hoodie, and shuffled to the kitchen for coffee. As it brewed, her phone buzzed once more. Let today be about rest, no pressure to be anything but human. She stared at the screen for a moment before exhaling softly. Somehow, this stranger understood her better than the man she'd nearly married. That day, as she moved through her apartment, folding laundry, watering her single plant on the windowsill, and listening to soft jazz, she found herself checking her phone more than usual. And each time she did, Noah was there. Not overbearing, not romantic, just present. She didn't know what to call this feeling, but she knew it was the first thing in a long time that didn't hurt. By the third day, it wasn't just morning texts anymore. Destiny found herself looking forward to hearing from Noah. Their conversations flowed easily, bouncing from favorite songs to random stories about awkward childhood moments. He had a quiet humor, the kind that didn't try to impress but made her laugh out loud. Sometimes, he texted midday just to share something simple. Just saw a man in flip-flops order soup. Florida stays undefeated. Sunset's doing too much tonight. I feel like it's flexing. Destiny would reply while on her break at the hospital garden or in the back room, her heart feeling lighter every time. She hadn't smiled this freely in weeks. Then came the phone calls. It started with one. Late one evening she was driving home from work, the highway mostly empty, her body drained. She didn't want to listen to music, didn't want to sit in silence either. Her fingers hovered over his number before she hit call. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, he said softly. And just like that, something shifted. That first call lasted 20 minutes, the next one 40. By the end of the week they were speaking every night. Noah never pushed for details about her past. He didn't bring up Marcus or ask about her family unless she offered. He just listened. When she told him about a difficult patient or how tired she felt, he didn't try to solve it. He simply made space for it. One night as she sat on her porch with her feet up and phone pressed to her ear, Destiny sighed and said, I don't know what this is between us, but I don't hate it. Noah chuckled gently. I don't either. She liked the way he didn't try to define it too soon. It gave her room to feel. Sarasota traffic could be unpredictable. After a long shift on her feet, Destiny often found herself stuck in a slow crawl beneath orange skies and palm tree silhouettes. But now there was someone, who made the drive feel shorter. Every evening around 6:45 p.m., as she slid into her car, her phone would buzz. Want company for your commute? She'd call immediately. It became their thing, a voice-to-voice ritual that sandwiched her day with ease. Noah's voice over the speakerphone was soft, steady, never too loud. He asked about her shift, the patients, her energy levels. He remembered small details, like the elderly woman who refused her meds unless Destiny braided her hair first. "Sounds like you're kind of magical," he said one evening. Destiny laughed. "I just listen." "No," he replied. "You care. That's different." One night, traffic was particularly rough, and Destiny felt the weight of everything crashing in. The hospital politics, her aching back, the lingering pain of betrayal. Her voice cracked mid-sentence. "I'm just tired, Noah. Not just body tired. The kind of tired that sleep can't fix." There was a pause. "I wish I could reach through the phone and give you the rest you deserve," he said. She didn't speak. Tears welled in her eyes, but not the kind she had to hide. "Pull over," he said gently. She did. "Now just sit. Let me talk to you." And he did. For 10 minutes, Noah spoke in the softest tone about nothing urgent, just the sound of the waves he could hear from his street, a joke about his neighbor's cat, the taste of mango tea he was sipping. When she finally spoke again, her voice was steady. "Thank you," she whispered. Noah responded with just one word: always. One Friday evening, Destiny sat on her couch, barefoot, a cup of mint tea in one hand and her phone in the other. She'd just finished another shift and had planned to crash early, until Noah texted. "Got 10 minutes? I found a podcast I think you'd love." She smiled. Minutes later, they were on the phone, laughing about the host's terrible analogies and sharing their own worst metaphors. But then, the tone shifted. Noah said, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. What do you need most right now, from life?" Destiny blinked. No one had asked her that in years. She hesitated, then whispered, "Peace. I want to stop second-guessing myself. I want to feel safe again. I want to matter. To someone." Noah didn't rush his reply. "You matter to me, Destiny," he said quietly. "Not because of what you do, but because of who you are." That moment held weight. Not romantic, not forced, just honest. Destiny felt her walls lower, not because he demanded it, but because he'd earned it. She found herself sharing stories she hadn't even told her closest friends, about her childhood, her father's illness, her fear that love only ever came wrapped in conditions. Noah listened through all of it, and when she paused, afraid she'd said too much, he said, "Every part of you is safe with me." She held the phone to her chest for a second, overwhelmed. In that stillness, something changed. It wasn't infatuation, it wasn't distraction, it was something gentler, deeper. It was the beginning of trust. The sun hung low over the Gulf of Mexico, stretching golden fingers across the soft waves as if gently pulling the evening into its arms. Sarasota's air carried the scent of saltwater and grilled seafood, the kind of breeze that slowed your heartbeat without asking. Destiny stood outside the cafe on Siesta Key, nervous and unsure of why. It wasn't a date, at least not officially. Noah had simply texted, "Waterfront, sunset, best tacos in town. You in?" She said yes before thinking too hard. Now, standing there in a lavender blouse and simple jeans, Destiny felt her palms sweat, not from fear, but from the unfamiliar feeling of hoping something would go well. When she spotted him through the glass window, her breath hitched. Noah sat at a small table near the edge of the patio, white linen shirt rolled at the sleeves, his forearms resting on the table. He glanced up as if he'd sensed her, then stood with a soft smile. "Hey," he said, eyes kind as always. "Hi," Destiny replied, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Nice spot." "Best view on the coast," he said, nodding toward the ocean. But his gaze lingered on her just long enough for her to feel it meant more. They sat, menus already pushed aside. The waitress brought 2 glasses of iced tea and left them with a smile. Destiny took a sip. "So, how many people have you caught on rainy sidewalks this week?" He laughed. "Just the one. You kind of set the bar too high." Their laughter mingled with the clinking of glasses and soft background jazz. No tension, no pressure. Just 2 people letting their guards down, slowly but meaningfully. The sun began to descend toward the water. Destiny stared for a moment, marveling at how something so massive could slip into the ocean so quietly. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Noah looked at her. "Yeah, it is." She turned, catching his eyes. Her cheeks warmed. As their plates arrived, grilled fish tacos with citrus slaw and warm corn tortillas, conversation drifted into deeper waters. "So," Noah asked between bites, "what made you want to become a nurse?" Destiny smiled, thoughtful. "My dad. He got really sick when I was 14. We were in and out of hospitals for years. I watched how nurses treated him. Some were kind, some just there. I remember thinking, if I could make someone feel human in all that pain, I'd be doing something right. Did he recover? He asked softly. She paused, nodding. For a while. Long enough to walk me across the stage at my high school graduation. He passed a few months after. Noah's voice was gentle. He must have been proud. I hope so, she said, blinking quickly. Silence settled, not heavy, but honest. Then Destiny leaned back. One day, I want to open a free wellness clinic in my neighborhood. Nothing fancy. Just a space where people can get help without worrying about bills. Health education, nutrition, maybe even therapy. Noah's eyes lit up with quiet admiration. That's incredible. I know it sounds big, she said quickly, but it doesn't have to be overnight. I just want to give people what I never had growing up. Noah reached for his tea. You're already changing lives. The clinic? That's just an extension of who you are. Destiny looked down, touched. What about you? She asked, changing the subject. What's your story, Noah? He smiled, eyes squinting slightly in the orange light. I guess you could say I help businesses grow. I work with small companies, invest in them, help them build better systems, reach more people. Destiny tilted her head. So, you're like a business coach? Something like that, he said lightly. She nodded. That's cool. He didn't elaborate. And Destiny didn't press. But later, she would remember that moment, the way his tone shifted, how his answer felt measured. At the time, though, she simply thought he was being modest. As the meal winded down, the waitress cleared the plates, leaving behind only the soft hum of waves and the rustling of the palm trees. Destiny leaned her elbows on the table. So, you help companies grow. Does that mean you're some kind of investor? Noah hesitated for a second, then nodded. Yeah, investor's the best word for it. That sounds vague, she teased. He chuckled. It's intentional. It's a little easier to explain than the full story. She raised a brow. Try me. He shrugged. I've been doing it since I was young. I got lucky with some early tech stocks, and over time I built a network. Now I focus on businesses with community impact, small ones that people overlook. Noah laughed. I wouldn't say powerful. I just like helping people build things. She studied him. His clothes were simple, no flash, no designer watches or expensive shoes. But something about his confidence, quiet, self-contained, suggested there was more to the story. Still, he never made her feel small. He never flaunted anything. That mattered. And you? He asked, shifting the attention again. What's your next step? Destiny looked out at the ocean, saving, learning. Maybe a grant if I can figure out how those work. Noah nodded. If you ever need help figuring that out, I've written a few applications before. Her eyes lit up. Really? He nodded. I'd be happy to help. For a second, their gazes locked, and something passed between them, something unspoken but steady. By the time they stood up to leave, the stars had begun to blink above them. They walked slowly toward the parking lot, the boardwalk beneath them groaning softly under their steps. Couples passed, holding hands. The air smelled like sea salt and distant bonfires. They stopped near her car. Destiny opened her door, then paused, turning toward him. Thank you, she said, for inviting me, for all of it. Noah nodded. You're easy to be around. She laughed softly. You don't know me yet. I know enough to want to. That landed. Hard. Her heart skipped, and her voice caught in her throat. A gentle breeze swept past them, and a loose strand of hair fell across her forehead. Noah stepped forward, brushing it aside carefully. Then, without hesitation, he leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't loud. But it was felt. Deeply. Destiny closed her eyes for half a second, letting the moment settle into her. When she opened them, Noah had stepped back slightly. I hope I get to see you again soon, he said. She nodded slowly. You will. He smiled, then turned and walked to his car, his silhouette lit briefly by the parking lot lights. Destiny got in and closed her door. She sat there for a while, heart full, fingers gently touching the spot where his lips had landed. It wasn't just attraction. It was the start of something safe. Saturday mornings had never felt like this before. The parking lot outside the local free clinic buzzed with quiet energy. Volunteers unloading boxes, patients waiting patiently with children in tow, the sun still stretching its arms over the horizon. Destiny adjusted her stethoscope and pulled her curls back into a low puff. Her scrubs were neatly pressed, her sneakers worn from use but clean. She took a deep breath, as she stepped out of her car, ready to face the long line of needs. And standing there by the entrance, holding a clipboard and coffee for two, was Noah. "Morning, Nurse Brown." He grinned, offering her the cup. "You showed up," she said, eyebrows lifting in surprise. He shrugged, sipping his own drink. "You said you could use a hand. I figured I could trade my Saturday suit for a volunteer badge." They both walked inside, and Destiny quickly took charge. She explained the flow of the day, how to greet patients, which forms to prioritize, and how to calm nerves. Noah listened intently, nodding, shadowing her with quiet focus. In one exam room, a young mother with a toddler sat nervously, unsure about the vaccine her son was scheduled to receive. Destiny crouched down to the toddler's level and smiled. "It's quick," she said gently, "and you'll get a cool sticker afterward. Deal?" The child blinked, but before he could nod, Noah knelt beside them. "My nephew once got one of these. He said the sticker made him faster. Like superhero fast." The little boy's eyes widened. Destiny glanced at Noah, amused. He winked. By midday, they'd seen more than 30 patients. Noah helped with intake, cleaned up spilled juice, and calmed an elderly man who was afraid to ask about blood pressure medication. During a brief break, Destiny handed Noah a granola bar from her bag. "You're a natural," she said. He grinned. "You run this place like a general. It's not mine. I just care," she said with a small shrug. "I see that," he replied. They sat under the awning behind the clinic, watching the line thin as the afternoon sun grew stronger. "This is what healing looks like," Noah said, staring out. "Not in hospitals or headlines, just people helping people." Destiny leaned back. "It's where I feel most alive," and for a while they didn't speak. They just let the peace settle between them. Not the absence of chaos, but the presence of something purposeful. The sun was slipping below the horizon when Destiny and Noah strolled barefoot along Lido Beach. The week had been long, and the sand beneath their feet felt like a quiet reward. Destiny had invited him last minute. "I'm walking the shoreline after work. You're welcome to join." He didn't hesitate. They walked in silence at first, the breeze brushing across their skin as seagulls cried overhead and the tide whispered along the shore. Every few steps, their arms brushed. Neither pulled away. "I used to come here with my dad," Destiny said softly. "He'd bring fried shrimp and a radio that barely worked." Noah smiled. "Sounds perfect." "It was," she said, her voice trailing off. At one point, Destiny bent to pick up a smooth shell and slipped it into Noah's hand. "For your collection," she teased. He held it delicately. "My very first." Later that week, the pair met again, this time at a neighborhood block party in Destiny's community. The streets were alive with music, the scent of grilled corn and ribs thick in the air. Kids ran with water guns. Aunties danced on porches. Destiny guided Noah through the crowd. "You'll be nice," she warned her cousins playfully. "He's new." Noah fit in better than expected. He shook hands, tried spicy collard greens without flinching, and even got roped into playing dominoes, losing every round but laughing all the same. When Destiny's uncle made a toast to the strong black women in our lives, Noah raised his cup, eyes quietly finding hers. By the end of the night, Destiny leaned against the hood of his car, arms crossed. "You did good," she said. He shrugged, grinning. "I was coached well. They didn't kiss, they didn't touch, but the way they looked at each other, that said enough." Noah wasn't just observing anymore, he was watching. Every move Destiny made, every way she showed up for people, added a layer to his respect for her. At the hospital, he watched her calm a teenager having a panic attack after a minor surgery. She sat beside him, hand resting on his shoulder, guiding his breathing slowly until his chest stopped shaking. At the food pantry, she rearranged the donated items so elderly visitors didn't have to bend. At church, she sang softly in the back row, her voice not loud but sincere. "She gives and gives," Noah whispered to himself one day as he watched her wave goodbye to a woman with 3 kids who she had just helped sign up for a state program. And doesn't even realize she's rare. When they met up for lunch on a random Wednesday, Destiny had barely touched her food. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm just tired," she said. "Physically, emotionally. You ever feel like you're pouring from an empty cup?" Noah reached into his bag and pulled out a folded index card. "What's this?" she asked. "An actual, physical reminder," he said. "I made it last night." She unfolded it. It read in his handwriting. Even healers need healing. Destiny's eyes filled. Noah wasn't there for applause. He wasn't dazzled by her ambition or her appearance, though both were undeniable. He loved her hands when they trembled. He loved the cracks in her voice when she admitted she didn't know what was next. He admired her because she kept showing up, every single day, even when it was hard. And he knew, without a doubt, she deserved someone who would do the same for her. It was a Tuesday night when it finally hit her. They'd just finished a community panel on nutrition at the rec center. Destiny had spoken to a crowd of 25 residents, while Noah helped pass out flyers and hold babies for tired moms. Afterward, they sat on the hood of his car again, sipping soda and listening to the low hum of crickets in the distance. "You looked good up there," Noah said. Destiny chuckled. "I looked sweaty and overwhelmed." "No," he said. "You look like someone I'd follow anywhere." She turned to look at him. His words weren't flirtatious. They were factual, measured, but they curled around her heart like warmth on a cold day. She didn't speak. Noah continued, "I know we've only scratched the surface, but Destiny, I don't think about other people when I'm with you. It's just you." Her throat went dry, and then she looked at Noah, steady, soft-spoken, always showing up. "I don't want to rush anything," she said honestly. "I don't want to rush you," he replied. "But I do think about you," she added, voice lower. He smiled slowly. "I'm honored." She leaned her head against his shoulder. They didn't need fireworks. No declarations, no music swelling in the background. Just that quiet, just that leaning in, just the comfort of closeness without pressure. And in that stillness, something bloomed, not fast, not loud, but real. The elevator glided silently to the 34th floor of a glass high-rise in downtown Miami. Destiny stood beside Noah, holding her purse tightly, her eyes scanning the mirrored walls as her reflection stared back with a mix of curiosity and nerves. "This is definitely not the hospital," she muttered, half joking. Noah smiled. "You'll be fine, just people, with fancier desks." As the doors opened, Destiny stepped into an office space that felt like another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Biscayne Bay, modern furniture that looked like it belonged in an art gallery, and a faint smell of espresso and lemon wood polish. Receptionists greeted Noah by name. "Good morning, Mr. Theodore." Destiny's eyebrows raised slightly. She glanced at him. He didn't respond with any flourish. Just a nod and a warm, "Thanks, Julia. This is Destiny. She's joining me for the day." Julia smiled politely. "Nice to meet you." Noah guided her past glass conference rooms, paused to make quick introductions with associates, and then led her to his private office, a sleek space with soft lighting, an understated design, and a large whiteboard filled with colorful notes. "This is where I think too much," he said with a grin, pulling out a chair for her. Destiny walked around slowly, her fingers trailing across the polished edge of the desk. "It's beautiful. Clean, quiet." Soon 2 of his partners joined them for coffee. One, a woman named Jordan, leaned in curiously. "So, Destiny, Noah says you work in healthcare." "I'm a nurse," Destiny replied. "Mostly hospital, but I do community work too. I'd love to run my own clinic one day." The room went still for a beat. "That's incredible," Jordan said, eyes sincere. "We need more people like you." Destiny felt a flush creep up her neck. She hadn't expected such genuine interest. When the partners left, Noah looked at her. "You handled that like a boss." She smiled. It wasn't that scary. Destiny looked at him. Not the office, not the view, but him. And something inside her settled. The street was alive before they even parked. Music floated from every porch. A mix of R&B classics and newer hits, the kind that made old heads nod and kids dance. Smoke from barbecue pits curled into the late afternoon sky. Neighbors called out greetings, aunties waved folding fans, and someone shouted from down the block, "Destiny! You better bring that man over here." Noah stepped out of the car and adjusted his collar. "This might be the most vibrant street I've ever seen." Destiny grinned. "Welcome to my world." He followed her up the sidewalk, eyes wide as he took in the joy, the rhythm, the movement. Children darted past them with bubble guns. Men in tank tops smacked dominoes down on a card table. A grill sizzled behind them. Destiny led him to a gathering under a tent where folding chairs circled a stereo. Her Aunt Lorraine looked him up and down. "This him?" she asked with a smirk. Destiny laughed. "Yes, Auntie." Noah extended a hand. "Noah Theodore." "It's a pleasure." Aunt Lorraine ignored the handshake and pulled him into a side hug. "Don't be shy now. Fix yourself a plate." He did, carefully. Destiny watched him sample ribs, baked beans and sweet corn like he was navigating sacred ground. When he tried the collard greens and gave an approving nod, an older man nearby shouted, "Okay, he's got taste." He looked at her, sunlight catching the side of his face. "I'm loving it." A young girl approached. "Are you Miss Destiny's boyfriend?" Noah chuckled, but before he could answer, Destiny smiled. "He's my friend. For now." The girl squinted. "You look like the fancy kind." "I'm just here for the ribs," he replied. Everyone laughed. And for the first time in a long while, Destiny saw him not just as Noah, the quiet investor, but as someone who could be home in more than one place. Later that evening, as the party died down and streetlights hummed overhead, Destiny and Noah sat alone on her mother's porch steps. Empty cups and folded chairs surrounded them like confetti from the day's joy. Noah leaned back against the railing. "You know, this is the exact opposite of my office," Destiny chuckled. "You mean the music, the smoke, the unfiltered opinions?" "All of it. But especially the warmth." She tilted her head. "Don't they treat you well in your world?" "They do," he said, "but it's different, polite, polished. No one hugs you before they know your middle name." Destiny laughed again, softer now. "You did," she said, nudging his knee, "but you handled it." They both fell quiet. "I've been thinking," he said. "Earlier, when I took you to my office, you were calm. Like you'd been in those kinds of rooms before." She nodded. "Because I walk into every room like I belong, even if I have to remind myself." Noah studied her, thoughtful. "I think that's what I admire most about you. You're never trying to become something else to fit in." She looked at him. "Neither are you." He blinked. "I always thought I had to shrink myself in certain spaces, but today, at your block party, I didn't feel small. I felt human." Destiny smiled. "That's the highest compliment in my neighborhood." They sat shoulder to shoulder as a soft wind passed. Despite the differences in their lives, bank accounts, skin color, social environments, they felt equally exposed and equally understood. And that feeling, that sense of being seen, it was rare, it was powerful. In the weeks that followed, Destiny and Noah continued to move through each other's worlds with growing ease, not pretending the differences weren't there, but choosing to navigate them together. One Friday, she took him to a spoken word event at a local community center. The crowd snapped fingers in rhythm, laughter echoing in waves. A poet on stage spoke of struggle, survival, and softness in blackness. Noah sat quietly, absorbing every word. After the performance, he said, "I feel like I was just handed someone's truth, raw and real." Destiny nodded. "That's exactly what it is." The next weekend, Noah invited her to a donor dinner for a non-profit he supported. The room was filled with polished attire, soft violin music, and subtle nods of approval. Destiny wore a navy dress, natural curls cascading freely. More than a few heads turned. At their table, someone asked where she studied. "I work full-time as a nurse. I'm taking administration classes now," she said confidently. The woman across the table smiled, slightly surprised. "That's impressive." Later, as they left, Noah whispered, "You didn't just blend in, you owned it." Destiny replied, "I wasn't there to blend. I was there to show up." They walked toward the valet hand in hand, two people from different neighborhoods, different table traditions, but united in the same rhythm. They didn't erase their differences, they honored them. Noah respected the way Destiny's community embraced storytelling, rhythm, and togetherness. Destiny respected how Noah's world prized strategy, structure, and long-term vision. But in the space between those worlds, they found a shared value system, dignity, honesty, love, one that didn't require translation, just intention. And slowly, each table they sat at became less about which world they came from, and more about what they were building together. It started with loose change. They were in the hospital cafeteria one late afternoon, Destiny still in her scrubs, Noah waiting at a corner table with 2 sandwiches. She stood at the cashier, counting out singles and coins for a small salad and bottled water. Noah noticed her expression. It wasn't embarrassment, it was exhaustion, the quiet kind that comes from stretching every dollar with practiced grace. As they sat down, she avoided eye contact. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded too quickly. "Destiny." She sighed and stirred her salad with her fork. "Rent's due. My student loan payment bounced, and I had to help my mom cover part of her medication this week. I'm trying, but sometimes it just feels like trying isn't enough." Noah didn't respond right away. He didn't offer a fix, and that's what made her keep talking. I've been working since I was 16. I know how to hustle. I know how to save a little, juggle bills, avoid overdrafts. But the truth? I'm just tired of scraping." She glanced up. "I don't tell people this. I hate pity, but I feel like you see past that." "I do," he said quietly. They sat in silence for a few minutes. "Not awkward, just real. I'm not asking for anything," she added. "I just needed to say it out loud for once." Noah reached across the table and gently placed his hand over hers. "Saying it doesn't make you weak, it makes you honest." Destiny blinked away unexpected tears. That day, for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel ashamed of what she carried, because someone finally understood the weight. A few nights later, they sat on Destiny's small balcony sipping tea. The Sarasota breeze drifted through the screen door, and Destiny had her legs tucked beneath her on a folding chair. "I've been thinking," Noah said, pulling a small notebook from his messenger bag. "Not to overstep, but would you let me show you something?" She eyed the notebook, then him. "Depends," she said cautiously. "It's not charity, it's strategy," he said with a small smile. "Think of it like this. Your dreams are a destination. I just want to help map out the gas stops." She chuckled despite herself. "Okay, go ahead." Noah opened to a page filled with colored boxes and small handwritten labels. "I call this the three-pocket plan. You divide everything you bring in into 3 key pockets: essentials, goals, and joy. You don't neglect any of them." Destiny leaned in, curious. "Essentials cover rent, bills, food. That's the priority pocket. Goals are for the clinic, your classes, savings. Joy is for that mango smoothie you love or taking your mom to the movies." "And what happens when essentials eat the whole paycheck?" "Then we find creative ways to shift the balance over time," he replied calmly. "We adjust. We don't erase joy. Ever." They spent the next hour talking through her numbers, what she earned, what she owed, where it disappeared. Noah asked questions without judgment and explained things with patience. When they finished, he closed the notebook. "You've been doing a lot with very little," he said. "That's not failure, that's survival. And now, you're allowed to build something better." Destiny stared at him, surprised by how empowered she felt. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because no one should have to walk toward their dreams alone." The next Saturday morning, Destiny made pancakes in her small kitchen, while Noah sat at the table, laptop open, notes spread beside his plate. "Today," he said between bites, "we build your budget dashboard." She raised a brow. "Dashboard? That sounds intimidating. It's a digital version of the notebook. I'll show you." For the next 3 hours, they worked side by side. Destiny entered her weekly expenses, while Noah created formulas to automatically calculate balances. They used color codes: green for savings, blue for bills, gold for joy. He taught her how to track her spending, set reminders, and even how to check her credit score safely. At one point, Destiny sat back and sighed. "I never thought I'd say this, but budgeting is kind of fun when I'm not doing it alone." Noah laughed. "See? You're already halfway to CFO." She playfully threw a napkin at him. Later that day, they walked through a local farmer's market with their joy budget envelope in her purse. They bought candles, sampled peach jam, and shared a paper cone of kettle corn. "This," she said, "feels like a different kind of wealth." Noah nodded. "Because it's choice, not pressure. That's freedom." They weren't just building spreadsheets, they were building confidence, a rhythm, a routine, and a partnership that centered on growth. Destiny didn't just feel like someone being helped, she felt like someone being empowered. Weeks passed, and with every budget review on her laptop, Destiny felt lighter. For the first time, her money wasn't a silent source of shame, it was a tool. One night they sat on her couch, laptop open between them, comparing financial goals. Noah had created a shared document called Us. In it were tabs labeled Clinic Fund, Vacation Wishlist, Emergency Savings, Future Home. Destiny scrolled through the tabs in awe. "You really made this?" "Of course," he said. "You're not a side project. You're my partner." That word, partner, landed with weight. She looked at him. "What if I can't contribute as much as you?" "You contribute everything that matters," he said. "Money is just numbers, but you're the reason I even care about building a life." Tears pricked her eyes, but she smiled. "I want to do this the right way," she said. "Equal voices, shared goals, clear honesty." "Then we already started the right way," he replied. They sealed the moment with a hug, warm, quiet, safe. Budgeting wasn't about control, it was about unity. It was how they said, "I trust you with more than my heart. I trust you with my future." In that moment, the spreadsheet wasn't just a plan, it was a promise. It was late. Destiny and Noah were on her living room couch, curled beneath a fleece blanket. A movie paused on the screen. Empty teacup sat on the table, her head rested on his shoulder, and for a long time, neither spoke. But Destiny's thoughts had drifted, not to the film or the tea, but to something deeper. Something that had lingered, unspoken for weeks. She sat up slightly, pulling the blanket closer. "Noah," she said quietly. He turned to her, sensing the shift in her tone. "There's something I've been carrying," she continued, "and I don't know how to say it without sounding afraid." "You can say anything," he said, his hand resting gently on her knee. She took a breath. "I keep wondering how people look at us when we're out. I mean, me, with you. You're white and I'm not. Sometimes I catch stares, and they don't always feel good." Noah's expression softened. "I've noticed them too. I try to ignore it," she admitted, "but I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me sometimes. Not just for me, but for us. For what we might face if this gets serious." He reached for her hand. "I don't want to have to keep explaining myself in every space," she whispered. "I don't want to feel like I have to shrink so other people feel comfortable." "You shouldn't have to," Noah said firmly. Her eyes searched his. "But I need to know, can you really understand what that feels like?" There was no bitterness in her voice, just honesty. And in her vulnerability the air shifted. Noah didn't look away, and he didn't answer too quickly. Noah's thumb gently brushed against the back of Destiny's hand. His voice was steady, not rehearsed. "No," he said. "I can't say I understand it the way you live it. I wasn't raised with that weight. I walk into rooms and never wonder how my skin might change the way I'm treated." He paused, eyes locked on hers. "But I see how the world moves when we walk into it together, and I see how it looks at you differently, and that hurts me, because it should never be that way." Destiny's throat tightened. The honesty in his voice didn't just acknowledge her truth, it respected it. "I want to be the kind of man who doesn't just love you in private," he continued, "but also stands beside you when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable, when it's complicated." She said nothing, only listening. "I don't just want to fit into your life when it's easy. I want to protect your dignity, your voice, your space, not by taking over, but by standing next to you in every place you belong." Destiny blinked, her eyes glistening. "I didn't grow up in a house that talked about race," he admitted, "but I've been learning, reading, listening, trying to be quiet when I need to be and loud when I should be." He squeezed her hand. "If you ever feel unsafe or unseen, I want you to know I'll see you, always. Loudly, proudly, and publicly." Tears traced a slow path down her cheeks. "I needed to hear that," she whispered. "I needed to say it," he replied. They didn't move for a long time. They just sat in the honesty, and it was enough. The next morning they walked along a quiet park trail, the early sun spilling through moss-covered trees. A few joggers passed. Birds chirped from branches above. Destiny spoke first. "My aunt married a white man," she said. "They live in Atlanta. It wasn't easy at first. Her family felt like she was betraying her culture. His family said awful things about her behind her back. They made it through, but not without scars." Noah listened intently, hands in his pockets. "I don't want us to ignore this part of our story," she continued. "I want to talk about it, not be afraid of it." "Same," he said. "I've had friends say things, comments they probably didn't realize were offensive. I didn't always correct them, but I will now. I don't get to be silent." Destiny nodded slowly. "It's not just about love. It's about understanding. It's about how we show up for each other in rooms where we don't blend." He turned toward her. "I'll never ask you to code switch or soften yourself to make my world easier." She looked at him surprised. "I love the way you speak. I love how your voice sharpens when you talk about what matters. I want our kids someday, if we ever get that far, to grow up hearing your truth, not a watered-down version of it." Destiny exhaled, her chest loosening. They sat on a bench under an old tree. "You ever wonder if the world will accept us?" she asked. "I don't care if it does," he replied. "Because I will." She leaned against his shoulder, and they sat like that until the breeze turned cool. They weren't erasing differences. They were honoring them. That night, back at Destiny's apartment, They cooked dinner together, homemade lasagna and garlic bread, a playlist of soul and jazz filling the room. As they moved around the kitchen, passing ingredients, bumping into each other, stealing playful glances, something had shifted. The emotional weight of their earlier conversations had drawn them closer, deeper. After dinner, Destiny lit a candle on the coffee table. They sat on the floor, legs crossed, a quilt covering their laps. "Noah," she said softly. "Yeah, if it ever gets hard, if people ever try to make this messy, promise me we'll come back to this, right here." He looked at her. "Always." She reached into the drawer beside the couch and pulled out a small journal. "This is my prayer book," she said. "I don't show this to many people." She opened it to a bookmarked page. "I wrote this months ago. Before I met you." She read aloud. "Lord, send me someone who sees me whole, someone who doesn't ask me to shrink. Let him be gentle but strong. Let him believe in dreams he didn't dream up himself." Noah swallowed hard. "Can I write something in it?" he asked. She handed him the pen. He flipped to a new page and wrote, "Thank you for Destiny, for the strength she doesn't show off, the love she gives without asking. Thank you for letting me find her in the storm." When he handed it back, Destiny closed the journal with care. Then she leaned in. He met her halfway. They kissed, slow, steady, full of all the truth they'd just spoken. No background music, no rush, just two people, tired of pretending, finally safe in each other's honesty. In the quiet that followed, Destiny whispered, "I see you, Noah." He replied, "I've been waiting my whole life to be seen like this." The soft morning light filtered into Destiny's modest Sarasota apartment, touching the framed photo of her nursing school graduation on the wall. Still in her scrubs from the night shift, she sat on her couch, sipping the last of her lukewarm coffee while scrolling through news on her phone. It was her usual routine before a quick nap, headlines about Florida weather, hospital shortages, and community drives. But her thumb froze when a particular headline flashed across her screen. Anonymous billionaire behind $12 million hospital grant revealed. Florida's own Noah Theodore. Her heart skipped. A wave of dizziness hit her. She blinked, scrolled back and read again. There was no mistaking the photo. It was him. The same man who once knelt on the sidewalk to offer her coffee in the rain. The man who sat beside her on her block's plastic chairs eating barbecue. Her Noah. Except, not just hers. Billionaire? Anonymous donor? Her breath caught as her fingers trembled slightly. The article detailed how Noah Theodore had quietly invested in medical outreach programs, supported education for underprivileged youth, and funded mobile clinics across the state, all anonymously, including Sarasota General. Her hospital. Destiny stood up suddenly, phone still in hand. She walked to the window, pushing it open for air. Her mind raced with every memory. The day he covered her lunch, the budgeting lesson on her porch, the joint account he helped her open. Had she been part of some charity project? Her pride recoiled. Was she just another feel-good story to him? But then her heart wavered. His eyes, always kind. His laughter, genuine. The late-night calls, his patience, the way he listened. Still, why hide such a life-altering truth? She stared at the article again. Every sentence felt like a crack in the trust they had been building. The man who claimed to value honesty had kept something this huge, secret. She needed answers. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. By late afternoon, Destiny was pacing the sidewalk outside Noah's Miami office tower. Her chest was tight, her jaw clenched. Her fingers gripped the article printout. She had called him 3 times already. No answer. The lobby assistant tried to redirect her, but the fire in her eyes was unshakable. When Noah finally descended in the glass elevator, his face lit up. "Destiny," he began, stepping toward her. She didn't return his smile. "So it's true?" Her voice quivered, emotion strangling her words. "You're a billionaire?" she interrupted, lifting the paper. All of this, you hid from me?" His shoulders dropped, and for the first time he looked afraid. "Yes. I should have told you. Why didn't you?" she demanded, stepping closer. "Was I some project to you, some help the poor girl mission for your conscience?" His face twisted with pain. "No, never. That's not what this was. You were never a project, Destiny." She shook her head, tears welling. "You let me sit there, counting coins for lunch. You let me open up about my struggles. I talked about dreams, stress, rent, and you never said a word. All this time." I wanted to be seen for me, he whispered. Not my money. I wanted to know you cared for Noah, not for what I could buy. Destiny's heart broke at his voice, at the regret swimming in his blue eyes. Still, the betrayal stung. But I trusted you. All this time, I trusted you. I know, he said quietly, and I broke that trust. I thought I was protecting us. But I see now, I was just protecting myself. There was a long silence. Destiny's hands trembled. She turned away slightly, then turned back, voice cracking. All I wanted was honesty. And I failed, Noah replied, voice hollow. But I love you, Destiny. I've never said that before because I wanted to mean it, and I do. I love you, not because of what you've been through, but because of who you are. She looked at him, this man who had offered her coffee in the rain, who had held her hand during neighborhood events, who had once knelt to explain a vaccine to a scared mother's child. Her heart didn't know what to feel, pain, rage, but also hope. They found themselves walking along the edge of Biscayne Bay in silence, the golden sunset reflecting in the water. Neither knew where they were heading, but steps followed steps. Finally, Noah stopped at a secluded bench and motioned for her to sit. I was raised in a house where money decided everything, he began slowly. Who you dated, where you studied, even who you spoke to. I saw relationships die over bank accounts. I saw love used like currency. Destiny said nothing, only listened. So I made a rule early on. If I was ever lucky enough to meet someone who loved me, really me, I wouldn't let money get in the way. He looked down at his hands. I didn't expect you that night. I didn't expect to fall so fast. He took a slow breath. I told myself I was protecting you from pressure, from questions, from wondering if this was real. But it wasn't fair to you. I see that now. Destiny's voice was quieter this time. Did you think I couldn't handle the truth? No, he said quickly. I didn't want the truth to ruin what we had. I was selfish. She crossed her arms, conflicted. You taught me how to budget. You watched me stress about bills, and I admired you for how strong you were through it, Noah said. That made me love you more. You weren't looking for handouts. You were fighting for your future. He turned to her fully. You once told me you felt small. Destiny, you are the biggest, brightest force I've ever met. The way you love your patients, the way you face each day with hope, even when life is unfair. I was a fool to think you wouldn't understand. Destiny's breath hitched. Noah reached into his pocket and gently handed her the very first scrap of paper he had written his number on. You didn't fall into the arms of a billionaire that night. You fell into the arms of a man who was already falling for you. Her eyes welled. Memories crashed over her. The sidewalk, the coffee, his patience, his quiet respect. She stared at the crumpled paper in her hand. Maybe what she had needed all along wasn't the truth about his bank account, but the truth about his heart. They returned to Noah's place in quiet understanding. The air between them was heavy, not with anger anymore, but emotion too deep for words. Noah poured her a glass of cold water, placed it gently in front of her, and then sat beside her on the velvet couch. If you never want to see me again, he said softly, I'll respect that. But I had to tell you everything. You deserve every truth. Destiny stared at the floor, processing everything. Her heart ached with layers of betrayal, but also throbbed with the memory of his care, his goodness, and how he'd never made her feel less than. Finally, she reached for his hand. Noah, she said gently, I've been lied to before, used, betrayed. But you didn't use me, you just hid behind a fear. Noah swallowed hard. I did. She nodded. I still feel hurt, but I also feel something else. What's that? He whispered. I feel that you see me, you always have, and that matters more than what you own. He looked at her with trembling eyes. So, she leaned in, pressing her forehead against his. I forgive you. His breath caught, and then, without words, he brushed his fingers gently against her cheek, eyes asking for permission. Destiny closed her eyes and nodded faintly. Their lips met softly, not urgent, not rushed, but slow and full of all they hadn't said, an emotional kiss of healing. It wasn't passion fueled by fantasy. It was two broken people finding safety in each other's truth. He kissed her like she was sacred, and she let herself melt into it, not because he was a billionaire, but because he had finally come to her bare. No masks, no secrets, only heart. When they finally pulled apart, Destiny laid her head on his chest. His heartbeat was steady. So was hers. They sat in silence, letting the moment mend what had been bruised. Outside, the city buzzed, but inside that room, everything felt still, like a new chapter was just beginning. A chapter built not on secrets, but on heartbeats and healing. It was a quiet Saturday morning when Destiny opened her email. She wasn't expecting anything major, maybe a health podcast recommendation or a few spam coupons. But nestled between a Walgreens promo and a church newsletter was a name she hadn't seen in months. Marcus Langston. The subject line read, "Please read this." Her heart paused, fingers trembling before clicking. Destiny, I know I have no right to ask for your time, but I owe you more than just silence. I've done a lot of thinking. And a lot of praying. And if you could find it in your heart to meet me, just once, I'll accept whatever you say after that. I'll be at Bayfront Park this Sunday at 2 p.m. Whether you come or not, I'll understand. Marcus. Destiny leaned back, eyes stinging. The man who had torn her trust, broken her spirit, and made her question her worth, he wanted to talk. Her first instinct was to delete it. Block him, move on. But her spirit wouldn't let her. Not out of curiosity, not for closure alone, but for the woman she had become. The woman Noah encouraged every day. Strong, whole, forward-facing. She sat in her robe with a cup of tea, pondering whether forgiveness meant giving someone another chance, or simply choosing peace over bitterness. The next day, she chose peace. She texted Noah, "I'm going to meet Marcus. I need to. I'll tell you everything after. Just pray for me." His reply was immediate. "I trust you, Destiny, and I'm proud of you." Those 6 words strengthened her spine. Marcus would not see the same woman he betrayed. He'd meet a woman who knew her worth and wasn't looking for answers. She was bringing her own. The park was half full. Joggers passed with headphones in. A couple walked their dog, giggling softly. The sun filtered through palm trees as Destiny stepped out of her car in jeans and a cream blouse, natural curls bouncing behind her shoulders. Marcus stood near the fountain, hands in his pockets, thinner than she remembered, suit jacket replaced with a hoodie and jeans. He looked normal, less polished, humbled. "Destiny," he said, voice a little raspy. "Marcus." Her tone was neutral, firm, not cruel. He gestured to the bench and they sat, at a slight distance. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he began, "but I wanted to face what I did. I was selfish. I let my ambition blind me, and I didn't protect you. I didn't even protect the truth." Destiny folded her hands in her lap. "You didn't just lie to me. You lied to yourself. You made me feel like I wasn't enough, like love wasn't enough." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I know, and I was a coward. When my career started crumbling, I pushed you away because I couldn't face my own mess." Destiny blinked slowly. "You used me, Marcus. And then when it wasn't convenient, you discarded me like a footnote." Tears brimmed in his eyes. "You're right." The silence stretched long before she finally spoke again. "I'm not here for apologies. I'm not here for reconciliation. I came because I needed to say this facito face. You no longer have space in my heart. I forgive you, but I release you." Marcus exhaled. "Thank you. You didn't have to. I'm grateful." Destiny stood. "Take care of yourself. Really." She turned and walked away, not bitter, not broken, but blooming. Later that evening, Destiny sat across from Noah at their favorite little taco spot in Coconut Grove. The breeze danced through the patio, candlelight flickering on the table between them. He reached for her hand. "So, how did it go?" She didn't cry. Not this time. She looked into his warm blue eyes and gave the truth. He was remorseful, quiet, honest, I think. But it didn't matter. I told him I forgave him and walked away. Noah gave a single proud nod. "That's powerful. That's you taking control." "I didn't know I needed that closure until I was walking away from it," she admitted. "It wasn't about him. It was about me." "You amaze me," he said softly. "I was scared to tell you," she added, squeezing his hand. "Scared that maybe, I don't know, you'd think I wasn't over it." Noah leaned in. "I don't measure love by what you've been through, Destiny. I measure it by how far you've come. And the woman sitting across from me, she's nothing short of extraordinary." Tears pricked her lashes, but they didn't fall. "I feel free. Good," he said, brushing his thumb over her hand. "You deserve that." The server interrupted with 2 plates of grilled shrimp tacos, but Destiny couldn't even think of food. She looked at the man across from her, the man who wasn't afraid of her past, her scars or her silence, and her heart beat with new rhythm. That night, Destiny stood in front of her bedroom mirror, unfastening her earrings, unzipping her dress. For a brief moment, she caught her own eyes in the reflection and smiled. She'd been holding grief like it was an old friend, safe, familiar. But now she was making space for joy. She picked up a journal and began writing. Today I let go. I walked into a chapter I never thought I'd face, and I walked out lighter. The girl who cried herself to sleep is not the woman I am now. I forgave Marcus not for him, but for me. Because love isn't fear, it isn't confusion, it isn't silence, and it surely isn't manipulation. Love is Noah, patient, bold, unafraid of who I used to be, and fully present with who I am now. She closed the journal and placed it beside her bed. Outside the window, the city shimmered. Life moved on, and so did she. In the kitchen, Noah poured 2 glasses of ginger tea. She joined him barefoot, robe tied loosely, hair cascading over her shoulders. To letting go, she whispered. To moving forward, he echoed. They clinked glasses, and as they stood side by side in the soft hum of the evening, Destiny finally understood. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing a better story. And she had chosen well. Saturday morning, sunlight bathed the tiny kitchen in a warm glow as Destiny flipped through a stack of brochures with highlighted notes. Noah, seated across from her with his laptop, wore glasses and a navy hoodie, the least billionaire he'd ever looked, and she liked it that way. They had spent the past week attending webinars and in-person community health development seminars, and the passion in Destiny's eyes hadn't dimmed once. I think this one's perfect, Destiny said, pointing at a flyer titled Community-Driven Wellness Models for Underserved Neighborhoods. Noah leaned in, nodding. It's holistic, grassroots-based, and more importantly, you light up every time you talk about this model. Planning the wellness clinic had started as a vague dream, an idea tossed into conversation on their second date. But now, it had blueprints, financial projections, and a name, Grace Grove Wellness Center. They wanted to offer more than just a clinic. Mental health counseling, maternal care, financial literacy classes, affordable walk-in checkups, the works. Noah's industry contacts helped secure early permits and consultations. Destiny's nursing experience and cultural insight into the community shaped the core services. They brainstormed at park benches, in the car, and late into the night on Destiny's couch. Post-it notes littering the walls, sandwich wrappers on the floor, hearts growing more entwined with every shared goal. During a Black Women in Health Equity workshop, Destiny stood to speak. I'm working on building something where people don't have to beg to be heard, where they're not just patients, but people, respected and restored. Applause followed, but Destiny's eyes were locked on Noah. He beamed, not because she looked beautiful under the stage light, but because she had stepped into purpose. Back at home that night, Destiny whispered, You really think we can pull this off? Noah kissed her hand gently. We're not pulling it off. We're building it. Together. Destiny walked into the community center's auditorium with a clipboard, a team of volunteers behind her, and confidence pulsing through her veins. The first annual Grace Health pop-up had taken weeks to organize. Free blood pressure screenings, nutritional workshops, mental health Q&A booths, and even a small play area for kids. Noah coordinated logistics quietly in the background, hiring local vendors, setting up media coverage, and making sure every folding chair, speaker, and lunchbox was accounted for. The event's success was overwhelming. Seniors wept after having someone listen to their stories without rushing. Young women lined up to speak with Black nurses about reproductive health, something they'd never had access to before. Parents asked about financial wellness classes. Local news stations showed up. When Destiny stood to speak at the end of the day, she wore a crisp teal blouse, natural curls pinned up, and her voice rang strong. Today isn't about what we lack, it's about what we can create when we believe our communities deserve better. And this is just the beginning. The standing ovation stunned her. But the moment she'd remember most came after the crowd left. A teenage boy approached her with his mom and whispered, Miss Destiny, I didn't know people like you could build things like this. That night, back at Noah's place, Destiny curled up beside him on the couch, exhaustion and joy woven in every breath. Thank you for not trying to be the hero. For letting me lead, she said softly. I never wanted to be the hero, he replied. I just wanted to make sure the world saw the one I saw every day. 2 months after the pop-up clinic, Destiny sat at her desk with a laptop, highlighters, and a stack of textbooks that looked taller than her coffee table. She had officially enrolled in an online healthcare administration certification course. Noah had surprised her with a full scholarship letter he quietly set up in partnership with a philanthropic education fund, under the condition that Destiny's name never leave the student list. "I don't want this to ever feel like a favor," he said. "It's an investment. In you." Destiny took to the coursework with grit. She studied between shifts, reviewed modules during lunch breaks, joined discussion boards at midnight. It wasn't easy balancing everything, but it reminded her who she'd always been, a woman who never folded, even when the weight doubled. On weekends, she'd quiz herself at Noah's place while he cooked. His voice would float in from the kitchen, reading her flashcards in a dramatic tone. Question: "What's the biggest mistake a health system can make?" She grinned, ignoring the voices of the people it claims to serve. He peeked from the doorway. "Correct. Extra credit if you kiss your tutor." Their playful intimacy became the balm to the hard days, and when she passed her first exam with flying colors, Noah baked her a lopsided chocolate cake with Dr. D in red frosting. She laughed until she cried, but deep inside, Destiny knew this wasn't just for her anymore. This was for every girl in her neighborhood who was told ambition made her too much. Every nurse with dreams beyond bedside shifts. Every woman who wanted more but didn't know how to ask. She was asking now, and she was learning how to build. The used Nissan Altima wasn't flashy, but to Destiny, it sparkled like a Rolls-Royce. She stood in the dealership lot, holding the keys, tears pooling in her eyes. "It's yours," Noah said quietly. "Not a gift, right?" she asked, only half joking. "Nope. Joint decision, co-signed it together. Monthly payments we agreed on. Your independence matters to me more than impressing you." Bit by bit, the stability came. Destiny paid off 2 lingering credit card debts. Noah guided her through a savings and investment plan tailored to her long-term vision. They set financial boundaries, shared goals, but separate autonomy. Together, they painted the walls of a small office space near the downtown clinic zone. Destiny brought in plants. Noah assembled furniture. It wasn't open yet, but it was theirs. One Friday night, they sat on the floor of the unfinished office, takeout containers spread between them, a small Bluetooth speaker playing soft jazz. "You ever stop to think how wild this is?" Destiny asked. "Every day." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "We're building something, not just a clinic or a business, but a life." He kissed her temple, brick by brick, "Destiny, and I wouldn't lay a single one without you." Outside, the streetlights flickered. Inside, 2 souls held dreams in their hands, and for once those dreams felt safe. The sunlight filtered through gauzy curtains, casting soft gold across the floors of the modest home, tucked near the edge of Tampa Bay. It wasn't grand. It didn't have the glass and chrome of the penthouse Noah could have offered Destiny, but it had warmth, walls painted by volunteers from the community, a garden Destiny dreamed of filling with lavender and collard greens, and a porch where they could sit and listen to the waves. Destiny's hands trembled as she turned the key. It was the first time since her heartbreak that she was walking into something not rented, borrowed, or temporary. This house was theirs, a symbol of how far they'd come. Purchased through a foundation Noah quietly created for single mothers, she'd chosen it without knowing it was partially funded by him. When she found out, she didn't get angry. She cried, because it wasn't about control, it was love in action. "This is where our healing continues," Destiny whispered. Noah carried in boxes from the truck, grinning like a teenager every time she looked at him. "We're home." The house was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, but close enough to a new school and not far from the waterfront, where they'd held their first community health outreach. The kitchen was outdated, but Destiny saw possibilities. The walls had cracks, but she saw character. Where others might see limitations, Destiny saw legacy. They unpacked slowly, savoring the process. He hung pictures, she folded towels. Together, they turned the space into a home, piece by piece. And that night, as they lay on a mattress on the floor, no bed yet, just blankets and dreams, Destiny turned her face toward him and said, "This is what peace tastes like." Noah kissed her forehead and whispered back, "And this time, it's built on truth." Life inside their Bay home moved at a different rhythm. No longer clouded by secrets or betrayal, their days found a pattern rooted in simple joys. Mornings were filled with the scent of cinnamon pancakes and Noah's awkward attempts at brewing coffee Destiny could actually drink. She teased him endlessly for it, but always drank every sip. They did laundry together, folded clothes while listening to old-school R&B. Destiny sang along while Noah learned the lyrics, and when she danced in the hallway barefoot, he followed, offbeat and laughing. Evenings brought candle-lit dinners on the porch. Sometimes it was just beans and rice, other times leftover stew she made in bulk. The point was never the food, it was the togetherness. Their love deepened not just in kisses but in effort. Noah fixed the leaky faucet after watching a dozen YouTube tutorials. Destiny helped him learn budgeting apps so he could better oversee the foundation. They grew, not by grand gestures, but in their willingness to meet each other where it mattered. One rainy Saturday, Destiny curled up on the couch with her books, studying for a healthcare policy class. Noah brought her a blanket, then lay beside her quietly, reading one of the articles she was assigned. "If you care about it, I want to understand it too," he said. She looked at him then, really looked. The boyish smile, the gentle hands, the man who had once hidden his wealth but now wore his heart so openly. "This is the version of you I didn't know I needed," she whispered. "And this," he replied, pulling her close, "is the version of me that only you brought to life." It was late one night, the sky inky with stars and the bay whispering against the shore. Destiny sat on the porch wrapped in a shawl, sipping tea. Noah joined her with a soft smile, his hand brushing against hers. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the wind rustling the leaves, the distant sound of jazz from a neighbor's radio, and the beat of two hearts finally beating in time. "I never thought I'd want to marry again," Destiny said quietly, "not after Marcus. I thought commitment was a trap, a doorway to heartbreak." Noah didn't flinch. He didn't rush her, he let her speak. "But with you, it's not about security, it's about safety. It's about knowing that even on my worst days, I'll never be unloved." Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. Not a ring, not yet, but inside was a pendant, two small intertwined circles like hearts wrapped in eternity. "I'm not proposing tonight," he said, "but I want you to know, if ever you're ready, I already am." Destiny took the pendant, her fingers trembling. "That's not pressure?" "No," he smiled. "That's a promise." She placed it around her neck, the pendant resting above her heart. "Then I'll wear your promise until I'm ready to make one of my own." And in that moment, without the weight of diamonds or grand speeches, something sacred passed between them, the quiet vow of two people who had earned their love the hard way. The bay hummed with late summer sounds, cicadas, gentle waves, the rustle of leaves. Inside their little house the lights were low. Destiny had fallen asleep on the couch, her nursing textbook slipping from her lap. Noah walked in, paused and smiled. He didn't wake her. He gently covered her with a throw, kissed her temple and dimmed the lights further. It was in the stillness that love revealed itself most. Not through declarations, but in actions. In sacrifices. In staying up late to file paperwork for her school grant. In waking up early to drive her to class before heading to his foundation. In keeping her dreams just as sacred as his. Destiny woke in the middle of the night and found him asleep at the kitchen table, spreadsheets open, glasses tilted. She didn't wake him. Instead, she brought him a blanket, covered his shoulders, and softly whispered, "We're building something eternal." He stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Even in my dreams, I see you." She cupped his cheek. "Then let's keep dreaming together." They didn't need chandeliers or mansions. Their home was painted in laughter, their rooms filled with resilience. They had walked through betrayal, through financial struggle, through trust rebuilt brick by brick. Now, their house, this humble space, was not just a shelter, but a sanctuary. And in the soft rhythm of their shared breath, with the bay as witness, Destiny and Noah fell asleep, knowing this truth. Love, when honest, doesn't need to be loud. It only needs to be real. The night had settled gently over Sarasota, brushing the horizon with a velvet hush. Inside the modest yet lovingly furnished bungalow, the lights were dimmed low, casting a golden glow across the walls. The sound of crickets echoed softly from the backyard, accompanied by the gentle rustle of palm leaves swaying in the coastal breeze. On the wraparound balcony, Destiny and Noah sat side by side on a swing bench, a light quilt draped over their legs. Destiny rested her head against Noah's shoulder, her fingers curled around a warm mug of peppermint tea. She wore an oversized sweater and soft cotton pants, her hair pulled back in a simple bun. Noah had his arm wrapped around her, content, quiet, and fully present. The hum of life felt slower now, not because it had lost its excitement, but because they had finally found peace. They didn't speak at first. They didn't need to. Their silence was the kind you only share with someone who knows the rhythm of your heartbeat. It had been months since they bought the home, small, tucked away near a community park, with room to grow. It wasn't flashy, but it was theirs. Earned, built, painted with the strokes of shared effort and care. Below them, the garden they'd planted together bloomed softly in the moonlight. The rosebush by the wooden fence was Destiny's favorite, and the tiny fountain Noah had installed bubbled like a lullaby. Finally, Destiny broke the quiet. "Remember when I used to crash on that lumpy couch after shifts, thinking I'd never catch up with life?" Noah smiled, brushing his thumb across her shoulder. "I remember thinking you were the strongest woman I'd ever met, even then." A breeze passed between them. Destiny let out a soft laugh. "We've come far, haven't we?" Destiny let her gaze drift toward the stars above them, clear and bright, like 1,000 small lanterns hanging in the sky. The fireflies had just begun to emerge, blinking softly in the garden below, like silent witnesses to her journey. She sighed, deeply and peacefully. "There were days I thought I'd be stuck in the pain forever," she murmured, more to herself than to Noah. "That night with Marcus, I was so ashamed of myself for not seeing it, for letting my guard down." Noah took her hand gently in his grip firm and grounding. "But that night you caught me," she continued, her voice steady despite the emotion. "Not just physically, but emotionally too. I don't think I've ever told you how much that meant." He kissed the back of her hand. "You don't have to. I feel it in the way you look at me." Destiny smiled, though her eyes glossed over with tears. "I used to feel invisible, just a nurse working double shifts, trying to stretch every dollar. And I thought if I kept helping others, maybe I'd find someone who'd see me. Not as a charity case, not as broken. Just me." "You were never broken," Noah said firmly, "and you were never invisible to me. The first time I saw you, wet from the rain, shaking but still standing, I saw a woman who refuses to fall, even when the world tries to knock her down." A tear slipped down her cheek, but it was a tear of release, of gratitude. "I'm proud of who I am now," Destiny whispered, "of what I've survived, what I've grown into. And it's not just because of you, Noah, but you've helped me see that love doesn't have to come at the cost of my dignity." Noah nodded, holding her close. "And you've shown me that love isn't about what you can give financially. It's about showing up, every day. Even in the quiet moments like this." They stayed that way for a while, wrapped in reflection, in admiration, in a stillness that only came after a storm had fully passed. Later that night, Destiny stood to stretch, walking toward the edge of the balcony. Fireflies danced across the garden in gentle golden rhythms. She inhaled deeply, letting the warmth of the Florida night settle into her bones. Noah rose from the swing and stepped inside briefly, returning with an envelope. He held it gently, unsure of how to present it, but then he cleared his throat softly. "Destiny." She turned, brows raised. "There's something I've been working on behind the scenes, and I didn't want to say anything until I was sure. But I want to give this to you." He handed her the envelope. With careful hands, Destiny opened it, expecting a letter or maybe a sentimental note. Instead, she found a copy of an official document, with her name on it, and a letter of donation in the amount of $250,000. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Noah," he smiled gently, "it's the full funding to launch your free community clinic. The lease is signed, the paperwork is filed, and the permits are in place. You just need to choose the name." Destiny stared at him, stunned. "You did all this?" "I did. Because this dream of yours, it matters. Not just to you, but to everyone you've ever helped. It's time the world saw what I've seen in you all along." Tears filled her eyes, and her legs nearly gave out as she clutched the papers. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll run that clinic like only you can. Say you'll keep healing people. Say you'll build it your way, with your heart leading the way." She stepped into his arms, the papers pressed against his chest. "I love you, Noah Theodore. And I love you, Destiny Brown." They stood in the moonlight, a quiet wind brushing past them as if even nature paused to honor the moment. In the silence that followed, Destiny pulled back just enough to look into Noah's eyes. The fireflies were glowing all around them now, tiny stars brought down to earth. The night air smelled like jasmine and fresh soil, and the quiet rhythm of crickets filled the space between their heartbeats. Destiny leaned up and kissed Noah, slowly, sweetly. It was not a kiss of fireworks, but of roots, of something deeply planted and finally in bloom. When they parted, destiny laughed softly. If someone had told me a rainy night and a heartbreak would lead to this, I would have gotten soaked sooner, Noah teased gently. They both laughed, the kind of laugh that came from deep healing. Then Destiny whispered, "We didn't build this from riches." Noah nodded, pulling her close again. "We built this from love." And as fireflies blinked all around them, and the moon glowed gently overhead, the story didn't end. It simply turned a page. They had built something unshakable, not from riches, but from love.